Kendria with Mann Lake, going over the October Beekeepers Buzz. Let's go ahead and jump into some information that we addressed the last time we was here. So we had 2 hives that did not show any signs of eggs and larvae. So today, if there's still no signs of eggs and larvae, which the last time we was in the hives, there wasn't, I'm actually gonna work to combine the hives themselves using a double screen. It works by you're removing the bottom board and the outer cover from 2 hives, combining those and changing their flight patterns. For the first couple of days, I will leave them under wraps to be able to reacclimate to their new hive itself and to take to their new queen. But that's only if you're not seeing any signs of eggs and larvae in your hive. At that point, just some notations for the upcoming months that you may just want to know about. Be sure if you are needing any feed for winter or fall, you're getting those orders in. We don't want anybody to do without, and any kind of delay in shipping or anything like that could occur. So be sure you're getting those orders in to us as quickly as possible. Even earlier is better. Those expiration dates are on the container of the product itself. But we're going to be going through the hives. I know there's going to be some more in-depth details that we might not address in the video, but if you have any questions, be sure to reach out to either myself or a sales rep. We're always happy to help any way that we can. They seem fairly calm today based off their demeanor that I've been watching here in the past little bit. Remember to smoke your entrance. If you do smoke, we're going to check for any burr comb. There's not any. However, they are bringing in a lot of propolis this time of year. They're just trying to get everything sealed up and ready for the winter time. We're going to check our beetle blasters. There's still availability for more to be caught, and then probably next time we'll need to go ahead and pull these from the hive before winter time. This is an example of the amount of propolis that they are bringing in. This trap has a lot.
Actually, you're below the camera now.
A lot of propolis in it, which is good because that means they're sealing this off for wintertime. And we're just doing a basic inspection today, making sure that we still see eggs and larvae. And we're gonna go ahead and feed. This will probably be the last time that I will liquid feed, unless temperature is a lot for us to continue. Of course, it is early October here in Kentucky, so I might be able to feed all the way up until November if temperature is a lot for it. As for your protein patty, I'll probably put mine on about mid-October. And then after October, I'll start feeding a winter patty. Not seeing any signs of eggs just yet. Oh, look at all them bees. Come on, girls, stay on there. Oh. Our bees here are still actually bringing in a good amount of pollen, as you can see. Oh, where'd she go? This bee, her basket is completely filled with pollen. She's got her pollen baskets completely full, which means they're still bringing in pollen from somewhere. Something's in bloom, and of course October here in Kentucky, we'll actually have ragweed go in bloom. These are completely filled with bee bread and pollen. And you can tell that there's all different colors of pollen inside these cells. So we had a question about the coloring of the wax itself. So we'll go ahead and address that. So as you can tell, the wax is very yellow in color. And even on this side, it's very yellow in color. And that actually comes from foraging from natural pollen. We've not yet fed a pollen substitute to these hives yet. So these have actually not been fed any kind of pollen substitute. They have foraged completely. Natural beeswax is a very bright yellow in color, especially the newer it is. These are all new drawed out frames, so they're going to be a brighter color than, say, even the ones that were left over from last year in the bottom boxes here. And I'll address that here in just a moment, if you give me just a second. But at this point, we're going to go ahead and start the process of getting that medium super on. They've propolized everything on these hives, so they are really getting prepared for winter. And sometimes breaking that propolis bond makes me a little sad because they put so much effort into preparing their hive for winter time and making sure every little crack is completely sealed. So you can tell that this does have pollen in it, but that the comb itself looks dark. This is an older frame of foundation that has been reused from last year. It's not new. This is new foundation that was made and produced by the bees this year. So it's a very lighter in color. By next year, this will look very similar to one another. And I know this isn't completely built out just yet, but it will get dark in color the same as this one is. We're feeding again with Pro Sweet with the Pro Health, making sure that you measure this with the accurate amount of Pro Health that you're using is always a good thing. So making sure that you're measuring the Pro Health with the amount of Pro Sweet. The instructions are definitely on the back of that bottle. So 4 teaspoons for 1 gallon. And I like to shake it up in these amazing 1 gallon bottles. Highly recommend if you don't have these. It makes for an easy pour. In the event that you are going to combine a hive, you want to make sure that one hive has an established queen and that it is a strong laying queen. You also want to make sure that that hive has enough honey to be able to satiate that hive. If you have one box that has a good amount of brood in it, and then you have another hive that has one box that has no brood in it, but has bees, that's when the double screen comes into play at. This is probably one of my favorite tools in my arsenal. It's something that I keep in my tool shed at all times, just in case we need to combine hives. If I catch a swarm in early spring and it's a smaller swarm itself, and I can get those established, but they don't, I come to find out that I don't have a queen in that particular swarm, I will go ahead and use the double screen to establish those bees with another hive and colony. This is a really good tool to have in your toolbox. I always have had one for the last 9 years that I've been beekeeping. A couple of other things. This is definitely, like I said, the time of year that you're going to want to go ahead and get those orders in for your winter wear. So any kind of outer cover that you're going to want to use, I myself particularly favor the Easy cover here in Kentucky because it is easier to get on and off of the hive when needed and necessary. We don't always require a cover on the outside of our hives. I do always recommend a moisture board, and I try to keep for every hive that I have 2 on hand, 1 on the hive and 1 drying. And you'll always make sure you dry those flat. And again, preparing for winter in October is kind of the aspect that you're doing. There's not a lot of beekeeping to winter, but you want to get prepared during the fall season so it don't catch you off guard. And we had a question in our previous, commented on our previous video about the feeder being in the bottom box, and does it always have to be? It doesn't have to be in the bottom box. I do that because it promotes a less robbing while it's in the bottom box rather than the top box. Right now is a very harsh time on bees because robbing is something that really can affect them a lot. We have these 4 colonies, and 3 of them are really strong. They can rob out another hive. and prevent them from being able to survive the winter time, which is one reason why we combined hives together, is so that we can establish a strong colony that can have a defense against robbing. And again, if you all have questions, be sure to drop them below. If I have the availability in our next video, or whomever is available to do these videos, we'll always try to answer any questions you have. Bella the beekeeping bot is always available on our website to be able to answer questions. If you don't feel like that's your type of thing, you can always reach out to one of our sales reps. All right, so again, I keep my feeders in the bottom of my box just to prevent as much robbing as possible, to deter that from them. And these 1 gallon containers are wonderful for feeding in these internal feeders. It just makes it a lot easier to get that liquid down in that hive without having to pull that feeder out every time. Now, as you start to go through your hives in the fall, you may notice debris getting on the bottom. You want to try to get as much of that off as you can. One, because that makes a gap in the box itself. And when that happens, it causes them to have to propolize even more. And that's a lot of work on them. All right, so this is hive number 3 that we're going to be going into. And if I'm not mistaken, this hive, the last time we was in it, did not have a queen and had a good amount of queen cells also. Okay, so one of the questions that we get a whole lot is how much honey and when should I extract it for myself? So you want to make sure, especially in central Kentucky, we get fluctuating temperatures, and it's more difficult for the cluster to move around like they need to in order to get to their honey sources. With that being said, I always use 1 deep box and usually medium boxes after that. I've ran everything this year with 2 deeps. 2 deeps in our area usually can sustain a hive throughout winter. But you want that hive to be pretty full, which is the reason why late October I will feed very heavily during that time period so that we can have a hive and it be able to sustain the winter time. So my opinion, and of course, like I said, every beekeeper is a little different in what they run. I usually run 1 deep and 2 mediums. If you decide to go that route, that's the bees. That's for them. Anything after that, you can put a queen excluder on and build up from there for honey supers. Usually first-year beekeepers won't see honey their first year. It's not uncommon. There's just not enough for them to, there's not enough time for them to build out the comb and produce you honey and make enough bees to sustain the winter. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into number 4 here, guys. See if we can find signs of that queen in here. I myself don't always look for the queen herself. As long as I'm seeing adequate signs that she's there, fresh eggs, you know, smaller larvae. Sometimes people have issues seeing those fresh eggs. I do recommend a sunny day like today makes it really easy. Black foundation makes it even easier to see that eggs and larvae on. So if you're struggling to see that, you may want to swap to a black foundation. We carry that in our deep and our medium. And I'm already seeing sufficient signs of eggs. Anytime I see any kind of burr comb, I try to go ahead and deter them from building out like that. Okay. So one of the questions we had is, what's the latest that you can extract honey? Always keep in mind, you do not, I'll put that on upside down. Keep in mind, you don't want to extract anything that you're feeding. So if you're feeding, you shouldn't be extracting. Feeding entails that the bees don't have enough for themselves, and also what they store for you, It needs to be honey. It needs to be what they foraged off the property, off the land itself. With that being said, the latest I've ever extracted myself is about the end of October, and that was a late year, depending on when my flow ends here. And that can be your determination, your last flow. Ours here is usually about mid to late October, and it's ragweed. Not my favorite honey, but there are some people who like it. It tends to be a little darker in color. Again, this is October's inspections of our hives. Some things to keep in mind for November that you may want to keep up with is to make sure you have some winter feed on hand, your outer covers, and definitely those moisture boards is one of the things that I always recommend for a winter use here in Kentucky. Right now is the determination between October and November about that weather fluctuation. So we're going to get a lot of temperature increases. This morning, for example, it was about 60 degrees this morning and about 75 to 80 this afternoon. So our temperatures here fluctuate quite a bit. You just want to make sure that you keep that moisture board on, because with the temperature change, it can cause moisture. Again, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more videos, and if you have any questions, drop them in the comment below. I'd love to be able to answer them next time for you guys. Have a great day.